What does that even mean, Bowers Game Corner?
Hi there, YouTube. I'm back again today for another game review. And today I'm very excited to check out ours, Alchimia from Tasting Minstrel Games. This is for 2 to 4 players. Taking about an hour to play. It's for ages 14 plus. And in ours, Alchimia, this is a worker placement game where you're going to be making elven rings and bread and ointment and all sorts of stuff because you're an alchemist and you're going to mines, gaining resources, and, well, the theme kind of falls to the side. But it is a worker placement game with a lot of really interesting mechanisms mixed in there. But does it all work? Let's open it up, and I'll tell you what I think. Alrighty then, we're going to take a look at what's sitting inside of ours, Alchimia, and it's got one of those weird rule booklets where it's like in the middle or something. I'm not quite sure, but anywho, the rule booklet is really one page, double-sided, and it is just crammed full of text. Everything in this game feels like they tried to conserve space in the game, which is both good and bad, but I'll talk more about that in the pros and cons. And the rule booklet's pretty well done. It should have you up and running pretty quickly. The game is very straightforward and streamlined. I do feel like there maybe a paragraph here or there, a couple sentences every once in a while would have helped it out, but it's still a well-done rule booklet, even though I did notice a typo or two, which is kind of unusual in a rule booklet. But anywho, in ours Alchimia, this is a very straightforward worker placement game where you are going to gather spells, and then you're going to gather resources to complete those spells, and then you're going to go over here to the forge to try and, to successfully create those spells, and then you're going to gain victory points for creating those spells, and then you're going to rinse, wash, and repeat. But along the way, you're also going to be able to hire assistants down here, which will give you special abilities that only you will have. What am I talking about? Let's go over all the different spots and the components, and you'll get a feel for how the game works. So when you first start the game, you are going to get this little card right here. And this is where you're going to be keeping track of all of the resources you have, which are green, blue, red, yellow, and gold. And we're just going to call them that to make it easier. And then down here are going to be various different spells that you can try to complete. So for instance, for this one, you need 1 white, 2 blue, and 1 green. If you do that, you will gain 4 victory points. Hooray! Also, you might notice there's a symbol in the upper right-hand corner because there is a set collection aspect to this game where the more you have of this symbol, the more points you're going to get at the end of the game. Now, you might also notice that down at the bottom it says C because you have to work your way up to the more powerful and higher point spells. So in order to get to the B spells, you have to get the C spells. In order to get to the A spells, it says in the rule booklet you have to complete 2 spells before you can do the A spells. I think they mean you have to complete a C and a B spell, but it's just one of those things in the rule booklet where an extra sentence would have fixed that. So down here is where you're going to be getting spells. On your rule card, or on your little player area right here, what you're going to do is you're going to, boom, just plop it in right there, and that's how you know that that is what you were working on. You can work on up to 3 at a time. Now, like Ticket to Ride, if you do not complete this by the end of the game, you are going to lose points for this. I believe it's half rounded down. So, for instance, if you do not complete this, this would be negative 2 points for you at the end of the game. So don't bite off more than you can chew. So, how are you going to complete these spells? Well, you're going to have to go up here, and this is where you're going to be mining for various different things. So, for instance, this one right here, if you place your worker there, is going to guarantee you to get a white, you're going to move your white cube 1. However, you're also going to roll a die, and the game comes with 1 D6 die, which also serves as a first player token because you're going to be passing this from first player to first player. And if you can roll a 6 or higher, you're going to get a red, blue, and white. Now, how in the world would you get higher than a 6, you might be asking? Well, how this works is the more workers you place on a spot, the more dice modification you're going to get. So for instance, if no one was on this spot and you place 2 workers there instead of 1, your die roll would be +1. If you place 3 workers there, your die roll would be +2, so on and so forth. So for instance, one like this, where you're going to get 2 whites, a blue, and a green, this one you might want to put 3, 4, 5 workers on there. Now, let's take a look at this one over here. This one, it's automatically going to give you 3 green, plus, if you roll 5 or higher, you'll get a red. So that one you might not want to put as many workers there. Now, also, you can randomly go here. So you could place a worker right here, and then you get to flip this over, and randomly, it might be good for you, it might be bad for you. Who knows? Well, it's not going to be bad for you because it's going to get you resources, but still, you're kind of pressing your luck there because you don't know what you're going to get. Now, once you have enough stuff so that you can complete your spell, you're going to want to go over here to the forges. And let's take a look at this forge right here. So this forge is going to allow you to make 2 potions. 2 spells, I should say. So this is a spell. So if you made this, this would take up 1 of your spells. And how that would work is you would just turn in all those goods, you'd move your cubes down, and then hooray, you have gained 4 points. Also, you're going to roll the die, and if you get a 6 or higher, you're going to get a bonus point. If it's a C spell, 2 bonus points if it's a yellow spell, and 3 bonus points if it's an A spell. Now, also, when you go to the center, you can also convert 2 cubes into 1 gold cube. So we haven't really talked too much about the gold cubes, but the gold cubes are wild cubes. How that works is, so let's just say this is what's going on my board, and I turned in 1 red and 1 blue, I could go up 1 on the gold. Now you're like, well, why is that good? Well, here's the thing. The gold cubes are going to be a wild, so you can use them as anything you want, white, red, blue, or green. And also, at the end of the game, they're going to be worth 1 victory point as well. So having gold cubes is worth your time and effort most of the time. Like this area over here, you can also go right here, and you can potentially try to gamble that you're going to be able to get a good one. So let's see. Oh, yeah, so this one has a 3, and also you only have to roll a 4 or higher to get the bonus there. Now, the last spot on the board we need to talk about down here are your assistants. And your assistants are a big old stack of cards right here, and each one is going to give you and only you a unique special ability throughout the rest of the game. So let's see this guy right here. Once per round, return as many unfilled orders of yours to the bottom of the order deck. This card is worth +1 point at the end of the game. Now, this one's great because maybe it's the end of the game and you're like, oh, I'm not going to be able to complete this 10-pointer. So you could just discard that card, and that's essentially like not losing 5 points. Let's take a look at a couple more. Pay a resource of your choice to re-roll a dice roll. This could be very, very useful, especially on a spot like up there. Pay 3 resources to gain 1 elixir. You're like, well, why would I do that when I can just go up here? Because this is a persistent ability. You're going to be paying a bigger cost to get the gold, but you don't have to use your precious workers to utilize it. We'll look at one more. When you do a perfect transmutation, you may do another transmutation, and that has to do with the dice rolling up there. So these assistants are going to go in front of you, and they're going to give you a great special ability. But at the beginning of each round, you're going to have to put a worker on this person. So it's going to cost you a worker all of the rounds moving forward. So it's kind of a risk-reward type of thing. And also it's going to give you 1 victory point at the end of the game, which is pretty cool as well. And you can have as many of those as you want in front of you, but it is a delicate balancing act, because if you have, say, 4 in front of you, well, that means 4 workers every turn are not going to be in your hand. Now, workers are another interesting aspect to this game. You're going to start with a set amount of workers, and then the rest of your workers are actually going to go back into the box. And as you can see, there's tons of workers here, and you're like, how do I gain my workers? Well, that has to do with the turn order chart. So at the end of a round, whoever is in last place is going to decide whether or not they want to go first, second, third, or fourth in the next round. You play 4 rounds, and that's the end of the game after 4 rounds. Now, if you go first, you get 1 meeple out of the box. But if you go fourth, you're going to get 4 of them out of the box. So it's a really interesting decision just doing the turn order by itself. So once you're at the end of the round and all the meeples have been used, you are going to rinse, wash, and repeat. You're going to replace everything on the board and go through 4 rounds. Now, one more thing that I need to mention about the game is how worker placement works in this game. Because let's just pretend I went right here and I put 1 worker there, and I get to do whatever's on this card. The next person who's going to go there, and it could be me, is going to have to place at least 2 workers to go there. So you place the 2 workers, bump my guy over to the fountain. So then the next player who's going to go there is going to have to play at least 3 workers to go there, and so on and so forth. So it becomes an interesting aspect of how many workers should I place on a certain spot, because by placing a lot of workers, you're going to be screwing over your opponents, but also you could potentially be getting, better luck when it comes to mining or when it comes to transmuting. So it's a really interesting aspect, even how many workers you place on your turn. But anywho, you're going to go over 4 rounds, at which point you will tally up the points, which is how many of your cards you have completed, and you're going to be able, which you should have been keeping track of around the outside of the board. But there also is a set collection aspect. So the more of a certain symbol you have, the more points you're going to get. So for instance, if you have, say, 5 of these bread, then let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're going to gain 9 victory points. So you definitely want to be paying attention to those symbols in the upper right-hand corner. Whoever has the most points will be the winner of the game. And that, in a nutshell, is how does this rule book work? Ars Alchimia is played. Alrighty then, Ars Alchimia from Tasty Minstrel Games. What are my final thoughts? Let's go over the pros, let's go over the cons. First, on the con side, game's not going to be for everybody for a couple different reasons. First big reason, 2 to 4 players, very restricted player count. Another con that I have with this game is that the rule booklet could be slightly better. You're left to infer a thing or two, and I noticed a typo in there. Just little stuff like that. Now, I understand that they crammed a whole bunch of stuff into this rule booklet, but still, I felt like there could have been an extra sentence scattered about. Another con that I have with this game is that everything is very tiny in this game. The text is tiny, the symbology is tiny, everything is very small. Now I understand why, because they're trying to fit everything into this really small box, which is fantastic, but you will run into some instances, especially with your score tracker or your resource tracker, you might bump it and you'll be like, oh, I don't remember if I had 2 or 3 resources, and that is a slight nuisance. Also, microcards, I'm not the biggest fan of microcards. I will give this game a pass on the microcards though, because you're never actually holding cards in your hand. They're all going to be placed on the board or in front of you. But when in between rounds, when you're trying to finagle with them, it's slightly annoying, but it's not a deal breaker. Honestly, I like the fact that it's in a small, compact box better. I'd rather have it in a small, compact box than in a larger box with bigger stuff. So it is a con, but it's not a huge con. Any other cons I have with this game? You know, the text is small. There's not really too much that I can poke holes in this game. This is a rock solid game, and I really like this game for a lot of different reasons. Moving on to the pros, I really enjoyed this game more than I wanted to. Oh, the theme is pasted on. The theme is completely pasted on. It's just mechanisms built upon mechanisms built upon mechanisms. So that's the last comment I have with this game. But moving to the pros, this game is incredibly streamlined. It's incredibly elegant, and I really enjoyed it. Everyone I've played it with has liked the game a lot. Just every choice you make is interesting. You know, turn order is interesting. Do I want more workers or do I want to go first? How many workers do you place is interesting. Oh man, I really only want to play 1 because I can just play 1 to get this resource, but then at the same time, I kind of want to get that bonus special ability on the bottom, so maybe I should place more workers. But then you also have to look at how many workers your opponents have, because if he's down to like, say, 2, 3, 4 workers, you'd be like, ooh, I could totally block him out of what he needs. And I like that aspect of the game. I love the assistants, and there are a boatload of assistants in the game, and each one has a unique special ability, and I like that an awful lot. I like the set collection aspect to the game, where not only are you looking at what resources you have, but you also need to be looking at, ooh, how many points is that going to give me? How many points, how many of a certain symbol do I have? Should I work towards getting a whole bunch of this symbol because it might score me, 12 extra points at the end of the game? Those are interesting small choices to make in the game. I like the fact there's a little bit of a press your luck aspect here, with the fact that you might be drawing blind cards. Like you might be going to the forge and you might get the one that lets you forge 4, or you might get the one that only lets you do 1. Likewise with the mining. I really like the tiny bit of press your luck in this game as well. Just everything about this game has interesting choices, but at the same time, it's very simple to learn. It's very simple to teach, and this is honestly a gateway game. This is a gateway game. It's so simple that I think anybody can understand it new to the hobby, but at the same time, there's enough meat and interesting choices that it's great for game night too. I mean, honestly, if you like worker placement and if you routinely hit 2 to 4 players, this is a fantastic game to get. It doesn't take up too much room on your shelf. Easy to learn, easy to teach, decently nice components aside from being undersized, and it's just a home run. I really enjoyed this game. It's going to go on my shelf for a long time, I have a feeling. That is Ars Alchimia from Tasty Minstrel Games. I enjoy it, I like it a lot, and I hope this one gets, a big enough push in America that we see an expansion, because I want more. But right now, great little compact streamlined game. Ars Alchimia, Tasty Minstrel Game. Definitely do not let this one fly underneath your radar, despite the fact that the theme is completely pasted on. If you enjoyed this review, please be sure to click on that subscribe button down below in the comments below. Let me know. If you could have a lightsaber, what color would you want your lightsaber to be? For me personally, I want it to be numerous flashing colors. I want it to be like a strobe light. So maybe it blinds people so I can, have a better advantage on them or something. I don't know. Actually, that'd probably just be a disadvantage to me because it'd be really close to my face. But yeah, what color would your lightsaber be? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for your time, YouTube.